how did you end up in Russia?
You need to go into these things because you want to do them. Neurosurgical training is very difficult, very intense, and I was the only Black neurosurgeon in my hospital. So I was probably the first Ugandan or first African. I'm the most passionate Ugandan. Lots of people have stories about places they haven't been to. Neurosurgery is now very fast changing. A lot of things we used to do in the past. Not everybody in Russia is racist. There is racism here in the UK. There's racism in America. There's racism everywhere. All this specialty training here in the UK, for somebody who is not doing a CESR pathway, I would say it's a straightforward line. And for a CESR, it's a zigzag line. I am the most normal person who has not had any privileges whatsoever. I grew up a very poor child, and it is a difficult route.
In England, and then you moved to Scotland. How would you compare the two countries? Hi guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Sissy, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. Today, I have a video that was requested by someone called Kabuisam Gavin. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but I'll insert it here. But the person was like, please, can you interview a neurosurgeon who's a Ugandan and share the way that they can do it? And I was like, who do you think I am? And I was a bit rude, I remember, because I was like, you need to find people who look like you or who are Ugandan. And then I was like, also, would you think I have a list of Ugandans, like consultants or doing different specialties just there waiting for me to interview? But I'm sorry about that, Gavin, but it turns out that I am who you think I am. And then I was on a group, because I'm on a group for British Ugandan medical doctors in the UK. So if you're a British Ugandan doctor, I hope you're in that group. If you're not, you should follow our social media accounts, British Ugandan Doctors Association. We are an association of Ugandan doctors in the UK, and we have a WhatsApp group, we have events, we have a webinar coming up by an orthopedic surgeon. So we have a lot of things that we do. We had a meetup. I'll link things we've done before. So we had a meetup in London, and I'll link that in a video up here. So you can go check that out after watching this video. And yeah, then they said, hi everyone, please meet Kenneth. He's a neurosurgeon. And once I saw that, I remembered Gavin, who was saying, please, I want to see a Uganda neurosurgeon. And I was so excited, and I sent him a message, and he was so kind to take time out of his busy schedule. You can see he's even at work, to come and talk to us. So yeah, hi Kenneth, nice to meet you again. And
yeah, so it's a hi Cece, and it's nice to meet you. And it's good to know that there are a lot of Ugandans out there that are interested in neurosurgery, and are also interested in knowing the journey and what it takes to become a neurosurgeon. And yeah, I'm happy to share the tips and give you the information that you need to help you guys prepare yourselves for a neurosurgical career.
There are two main categories of things I wanted to talk about. The first one was being a neurosurgeon, the journey to that. And the second one is that you're in Scotland, because actually I don't know anyone else in Scotland. You're the first person I've heard of Scotland. If you're out there, maybe you're still in Uganda and you're wondering, what is Scotland? So Scotland is part of the UK. So the UK is actually 4 countries, and there's England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. So don't all look at only England. You can also go to Scotland. So we wanted to know, how did you end up, first of all, how did you end up in neurosurgery? How did you end up in Scotland? Yeah, tell us.
So, I mean, for me, my journey to neurosurgery has not been a straightforward one. It's been one that has been quite long. It's taken quite a lot of times, and I've had a lot of fasts. And what that means is I've had a few things that I've been the first to do, or at least to try and break a few barriers, to try and make sure that I set out to do some things that I'm passionate about, and that's neurosurgery. So I'm the most passionate Ugandan. I am a Ugandan man by the name of Kalyango. I finished my education. So my medical education was actually in Russia. It was not in England. So I did my medical school in Russia, and I did my surgical training in Russia as well, and I did my neurosurgical training in Russia as well. My medical school was in the north. It was in a town called Arkhangelsk. It's the topmost. And when I say I've had a lot of fasts for me, is because I was the first African to work as a neurosurgeon on the pre-Arctic region. I was the only one. In fact, I don't know anybody else. Yes. Wow. And that's the pre-Arctic. So Arkhangelsk is a town which is on the topmost, where it's very, very cold. And I worked there as a neurosurgeon. I did my medical school then. I worked there as a neurosurgeon. I was the only Black neurosurgeon in my hospital. So I worked in a hospital called Archangelsk Regional Hospital. It's the biggest hospital in the north, serving a population of about 5 million, I would say. And I was probably the first Ugandan or first African to operate in a small town called Nerimar. It's a pre-Arctic zone. So I used to fly from Archangelsk Regional Hospital if there were head injuries there, and we could fly to Bora. It's funny, but the Russians could organize a plane to operate at the Arctic region and then come back. It's been quite an interesting journey, I'll tell you that.
Interesting.
So I started my neurosurgical training in 2017. And the training is different. If you look at the medical training in Russia and in England, it's quite a different type of training. And when I finished that and I started working there as a neurosurgeon, I got an offer by the Royal College of Surgeons here in England to come because I was already experienced and I had quite a very, very good logbook. I think I had about 1,000 cases in neurosurgery at that particular point. So I got an offer by the Royal College of Surgeons here in England to come and do an international training fellowship, which is an ICS, the ISTP by the Royal College. So I came and I embarked on that fellowship in Hull University Teaching Hospital, and that's mid England. It's quite a place. And when I finished that, I was awarded a fellow of the Royal College of Surgeons for international trainees, and of course, I went on further to do training. So I came to England after Hull. And of course, after that, I was signed off to do what we call the FRCS, which is the exams, which are the fellowship of the Royal College of Neurosurgeons. This is the exam you need to be recognized or to at least start a CESR pathway. And the CESR pathway is a certificate of recognition of specialty training or specialty registration is one of those. So before you get that, you must demonstrate that you have the capability at least and the surgical skill to be recognized as a consultant or a specialty registrar in the UK. So that's been my journey. So the training has been different. I have a lot of information about UK training, and I can give it to the people who need it because I work with a lot of UK trainees in neurosurgery in all sorts of departments. In fact, recently I was in Edinburgh on a conference where we meet all of us with the UK trainees, and we share knowledge in how to improve the training here in neurosurgery in the UK. So I've got a lot of information that I can share with people.
You have. Thank you. That was a lot of information. I have so many questions. And but before we go to the questions, the first thing I wanted to highlight is something you mentioned, and I think is really important, is that you were the first in a lot of things. So if you're out there, you don't need to, it may be like Gavin, who wants to be a neurosurgeon. He's lucky now he's seen a Ugandan neurosurgeon in the UK, and it gives him hope that you can do it. But even if you don't, that shouldn't stop you. You can be the first. Because this same Gavin, after commented and said, please, can you get a doctor who has been to KIU and is in the UK? KIU is a university in Uganda. And we don't need to look for people who have exactly done what we want. If you want to do something, just go ahead and do it. You can be the first. The other question, now to the questions. I feel like I still have a lot of questions. Like, how did you end up in Russia? Why did you choose to do your medical training in Russia? Like, that feels so random. And also, was it Russian? Did you have to learn the language? What was that like?
So, I think there are a lot of questions rather than answers about medical training in Russia. It's I'll tell you one of the things. I think I really love Russia. It's a country that is very dear to me, and I think I spent a lot of time there in training and trying to understand the people. And there's a lot of stigma around it in the news and things. It's a great country. It's a great power with also lots of fasts. Actually, at one point, somebody also asked me, why Russia and why not the UK? And I said, why the UK and why not Russia? There's a lot of things. When I set up myself to go and do a medical degree, most of the people, I had a lot of friends who went to Cardiff. So we went to different parts of the world with the guys that I finished with. Most of the friends who went to Cardiff to do medicine here in the UK, they even never finished it, if you know what I mean. So, and I also know people who went to Malaysia and they never graduated. So it's it depends on if you want to do something. I mean, you do it. So Russia for me it was there was a place that I knew people who had graduated from there. I mean, I knew doctors in Uganda who were working in Uganda who had graduated.
Are you born in Uganda or?
I was, yes, I was. I'm a very good Ugandan.
So your undergrad, so your primary school, high school was in Uganda?
Oh yes.
So it was from, like, I guess it was from S6, after S6 results, when you now decided to go to Russia.
Oh yes.
All right.
So it's after my my senior six that I went to do my medical degree. Yes.
Okay.
So it's I knew a lot of people. I knew a lot of people that had graduated in Russia. They were good medical doctors, and my dad was like, okay, there is an opportunity, and we knew people. Basically, we knew people who knew people. And it's a matter of asking. Then my dad knew people who knew people, and they say, okay, how is it there? How is it? It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very cold. It's going to be this. It's going to be this. There's a lot of things they told him. Oh, you can't send a child to Russia. How in God's name can you do that? Lots of people have stories about places they haven't been to.
Yeah.
So.
No,
everybody scared my dad off. You can't do that. Send the child to the UK, and my dad is like, "Oh, everybody." I know people who have graduated from Russia, and they're doing well.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he didn't listen to them because, like I mentioned, I've got a lot of friends who came to start their medical school here in Cardiff, and they never finished. They never graduated. They never became a medical doctor. So I mean, it's how you look at things. It's how you look at things.
So it's not your university, especially now, like this Gavin who was concerned about his own university. It doesn't matter what university you've gone through. I've done another interview with someone else who did her undergraduate in Hungary, and now she's a consultant psychiatrist in Norway. By the time you watch this video, then that video will be out. So I'll link it up here. You can go check that out. Okay, so we've got your story as to why you went into Russia and what was your experience there. I imagine the first thing that comes to my mind for me in Russia would be about racism. Is it so bad over there, or is that just imagine?
I think I cannot say there is no racism in Russia. I mean, there is racism. There is racism in Russia. There is racism in the UK. And there is racism in the US. It's just that
even in Uganda there's racism.
And there is racism in Uganda. I mean, we've got black on black violence. You've got people who are looking at it themselves in Uganda and saying I'm better than the other one. I'm better than the other. That is the same exact thing. So these things are everywhere.
Yeah.
And it depends on how much you want to pay attention to. Like I said, when I went to Russia, I had a goal to go and to have my education to do a medical degree. I faced difficulties which I went through, and racism was one of those. But like I mentioned, it's not something that has stopped me or something that can stop you. There is racism here in the UK. There's racism in America. There's racism everywhere. All these countries that you hear about being the milestones of. I mean, humanitarian and things like that. They also have their own issues. So yes, there is an issue, but not everybody in Russia is racist. I made so many. In fact, I made more friends in Russia than people that I looked at who were racist. So I've got a lot of friends. So that I can say that are good people.
What's your advice for someone who maybe doesn't know how to deal with like racism, especially if they are out here anywhere out in the abroad, basically? What's your advice?
To be fair, I think I don't even know how you manage to deal with it. It's I always look at myself as somebody who is able, if you know what I mean, and I look at always somebody who is racist as somebody who is either intimidated by what I can do or what I can become. So I always kind of just engineered myself to every time I come to such circumstances to just power myself to overpower this thing because. I mean, I'm a very capable person. So these things, I look at them, but I mean, it's not like it's advice, but I try as much as I can to take the pluses out of the minuses. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
there's no clear-cut answer to this.
Okay, so you look more at the bright side. It's just that some people worry about this thing. They're like, oh, will I manage? But we manage. We're out here and we're still surviving.
Absolutely.
And I think you have to also consider your reasons for moving abroad. Like, It has to be so bad. Now, like for you, you moved when you were younger and it was easier. But a lot of people who might be watching this are out there and they're settled with their families and now they want to move abroad, but they're worried about racism. So I think you need to consider where you are. Maybe like the economic situation seems really bad everywhere, but in Uganda, it seems a bit worse. So I think you choose either you choose tribalism, poverty, corruption, all those problems that you know you're facing, or you choose racism and also a different cost of living as well, because the cost of living is just so high here. So there are problems everywhere. You just basically choose your struggle.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, I think you need to have a lot of your own, a sense of your own self-worth and self-importance. And
I think it's very important, absolutely, to know what you're worth and to know that, at the end of the day, if I found somebody racist on the street, it's not that they're going to come with me at home. I mean, I'm just going to bypass them and go on with my, continue my journey.
Yeah. And also, if you already have low self-esteem or low self-confidence, someone does something small, then it's going to obviously put you down even much more. So yeah, people, go for therapy. Go for therapy. And if you're a mom, sign up for my own group therapy sessions that I'll be doing below or above. So yes, the next thing was about neurosurgery. And so you've done the CESR pathway. So if you're if you don't know and you're out there, these are two pathways of becoming a consultant in the UK. You can either do CCT, which is going through the training pathway in the UK. So that would be someone starting from training year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think it's like 8 years for neurosurgery or even more.
Yeah, it is ST8 before CCT, yes.
Yeah. Or you can do the CESR pathway, which is where you've been specialized in another country, like Kenneth was, and then your specialty stuff will be recognized also here. I understand it's a bit longer and complicated. Maybe you can shed more light on that. What does it involve?
So the CESR pathway basically is a certificate of eligibility for specialty training or registration. Basically, I'll say specialty registration is more correct. And what this involves is involves the Royal College of Surgeons together with the GMC recognizing you as a consultant here in the UK based on all the experience that you've brought up on board and your evidence for that experience. And so it is a difficult route. It is I wouldn't say it's a longer route. It's the only problem with it is by the time you come here, you're already either a consultant in your country or a consultant from the country wherever you've been working. As I was already a consultant, I was already somebody who was a neurosurgeon from Russia coming here. So it would take me longer in that I'd have to go through the registry jobs and to prove, which is a fair thing, to prove to the UK system that I've got the knowledge and the surgical skill to be registered as a consultant or a special, or to go into the specialty registry as a neurosurgeon. So it's a very, very fair system. And by that, if you're ready to go through it, basically, all the registry jobs, the registered jobs that you go through in these different departments, you prove yourself to the consultant because you need to be signed off for the exam, which is the FRCS exam. You need to prove yourself to the consultant. So because you can't go for the FRCS exams if you haven't been signed off. So the consultant who puts a signature that this person is capable of doing an FRCS and register himself as a day one consultant in neurosurgery here in England has attained the knowledge and the surgical skill for them to do that. Okay, so yes, it's a little bit longer, but it is fair. And the normal training pathway from ST3 to ST8 is this pretty much the same, but you gather the evidence while you're doing your training here in the UK using what we call the ISP website, where they say so. Website I can send you a link to that, where you gather your evidence, and at the end of ST8, we do the same exactly.
After you gather all your evidence, and then also you've been signed off to do this FRCS exam, then what happens?
Yes, so after you've been signed off to do this FRCS exam, then you sit that exam. And that is just for the CESR pathway. What makes it difficult is that's just part of the evidence that you need to be registered, recognized as a day one consultant here in the UK. So the exam is just part of the evidence. Then you'll have to present logbooks of your surgical skill. Then you have to present You're supposed to have research work as well. For example, I did a research on glioblastoma and the rise in glioblastoma numbers. You're supposed to present presentations on a national level. For example, only UK are recognized presentations on a national level. You're supposed to present audit evidence, and you're supposed to present a lot of different things that come with it. Courses, for example, ATLS, trainee, and things like that, for you to be recognized as a. So the specialty training here in the UK, for somebody who is not doing a CESR pathway, I would say is a straightforward line, and for a CESR, it's a zigzag line. It's longer and zigzag, yes.
But it sounds like it's pretty similar to what we do also, because those things that you're mentioning are also the same things that we have to put in our portfolio, except that for us, it's kind of...
Yes, as trainees.
Yes.
Yes. That's why I say we meet with all the trainees, and what I said is this system is very fair in that whether you're doing the CESR pathway, whether you're doing the CCT pathway, you are supposed to present the same exact amount of evidence for you to be recognized as a day one consultant. Okay. The same exact amount of evidence. So nobody is saying that somebody who is doing a CESR pathway has to be more than somebody who's doing a CCT, or somebody who's doing a CCT has to be less or more than somebody who's doing a CESR. No. As long as you've got all the evidence that is required by the JMC and the Royal College of Surgeons for you to be recognized as a consultant, day one consultant in neurosurgery, you are going to present the same amount of evidence.
Okay, thank you. The next question I had was, why did you choose neurosurgery in the first place?
So I think I've always wanted to do neurosurgery, and I think I've stayed loyal to this, because when I was going to do medical school, I knew that I wanted to do neurosurgery, particularly neurosurgery. I think it's something that comes in. We always had this in Uganda. I think was it Dr. Speciosa, because she was a neurosurgeon or something like that, and. I don't remember. I don't know where I get it from, but I think it was always the fact that in Mulago there were only 2 neurosurgeons on a population, starting a population of about, I think, 20 million people, and that alone was very strange. In that, you've got about a doctor for every 1,000 people, and at least in neurosurgery in Russia, for example, you've got at least a neurosurgeon for every 1,000 people. So it was very, very strange that we had 2 or 3 neurosurgeons in the whole country serving a population of 20. That never sat well with me. So I thought, okay, I could go and do some neurosurgery and change things around.
Oh, I love that so much. That's so patriotic. That sounds like also Dr. Nelson's reason for choosing orthopedic surgery. If you haven't watched his interview, I'll link it up. Go and watch it. It's that the feeling that in Uganda there were not enough. So actually, by the time I was in medical school, which was in 2010 to 2015, we had 3 neurosurgeons. It was Dr. Mhumuza, Dr. Mukasa, and some other one. Only 3 of them. But at that time, they were training more. So I don't know how many they are. If you know how many neurosurgeons are in Uganda now, please comment below and let us know.
Yeah, so Dr. Mukasa was a very dear friend of mine, and he unfortunately passed away.
Oh yes! Oh my God! COVID, right?
Yes. So we used to meet when I came to Uganda. We used to meet because we speak fluent Russian with him, so we could meet and discuss. Yes, so his training was Russian in China, so we could meet and just speak Russian. It's just always good to to find somebody who can speak a language with, and it's very unfortunate that he passed away.
May his soul rest in peace. And what would be what do you enjoy about neurosurgery? What if someone is out there and they're considering it, but they're not sure? What are the pros of neurosurgery?
I personally look at neurosurgery as any other specialty. I don't look at neurosurgery as something that is maybe above something else. There are so many things I can't do in therapy, and I seek help from other people. So I look at neurosurgery as a surgical specialty, and by that I mean I love to work with hands. I think my hands are very capable in that. It depends on what you. But some people are very good with their brains, some people are very good with their hands. I'm very good with my hands. So I think I've got very good hands, very stable hands. And that's what attracted me. That's what attracts me to this specialty, that it's a mind and hand thing. You can't be shaky in somebody's brain. You have to be very stable in somebody's spine as well. If you know what I mean. Any slight mistakes, things can go wrong. So the fact that I grew up poor, So I grew up poor, and we had to do a lot of things. Most of the things we used to do with our hands. And this is the thing. So one of the things I love about myself is, I am the most normal person who has not had any privileges whatsoever. I grew up a very poor child, and we used to do quite a lot of things with our hands, and that thing I think shaped me, because you do crafts, you do this, you do that, and you attain something. It's called motor skills. Some people don't understand this, but the more you do with your hands, the stabler it becomes. So your motor area becomes very, very functional. And I realized that at a very early stage that I'm very capable with my hands. So I think that also helped me to choose the specialty that I'm doing now.
So you tap into already merge with your own natural talents, which I think is
exactly. Exactly, because in neurosurgery, you need as much as you need the brain to think for, you also need the hands to work very well.
So then I have another question that's about your hands. I've always wondered, do you feel like they're so precious? Like, do you ever worry about anything happening to them? Are they insured? Because I know some people insure even their hands. Because I mean, it's like your source of income is in your hands.
I mean, I think I don't look at the medical specialty like that. I am a good teacher, and if anything happened to my hand, I can pass on the knowledge that I have to other people. I can go and do teaching. I can go to the university. I can do lots of things, and this is why I encourage people today to go into medicine, because medicine is not only the fact that you can treat people. Medicine is the fact that you are supposed to be a good teacher. You're supposed to be somebody who is happy and ready to pass your knowledge on to other people. So I don't ever look at that. I think these things are people, neurosurgeons who secure their hands or so insure their hands is in the US, because the US I work in the NHS, and it's a national health service. It's supposed to to offer healthy care to everybody, and this is what Uganda needs to copy. A healthy nation is where everybody can afford to or can access healthy care, not where you're cutting off somebody's finger like in the US for $60,000. Not so many people can afford this. It's good for the doctors, it's just not good for the population. So I think I'm happy to pass my knowledge on. If my hand ever got bad, I'm happy to become a teacher. And I'm happy to teach other people how to to do neurosurgery without having to do much.
Yeah. Okay. And what about being cool? Neurosurgery sounds really cool. It sounds like one of those cool things, Like if you've watched Grey's Anatomy, House, did you watch those medical shows?
Yeah, I think when I was in medical school, I used to watch. We had some. So when I was in medical school, we had a few. I could have a few evenings to watch a few shows. Yeah. Not anymore, really, but yeah, I could. I think I did watch Grey's Anatomy. I did watch Grey's Anatomy.
And actually, the neurosurgeon in Grey's Anatomy season 1 was the black one. He was the only black, I think, doctor or something. And me, what I remember is like there were some specialties that look so cool. So you who are living it, because you're living other people's dreams, they're going to be people out there who are looking at you and they're like, oh my gosh, what? Do you feel like you're so cool or not really?
I don't really. The thing is, I think it's in the US, like I mentioned. Here in the UK, first and foremost, at different levels of the specialties, we get the same exact amount of money. So I'm not boasting against somebody who is doing therapy. I'm not boasting against a consultant geriatric medicine, doctor, because we're getting the same exact amount of money. So, I mean,
I'm sorry.
The thing is,
yes, it brings you down to earth. In fact, consultants in the UK have also been striking. The situation is not good. Embarrassing.
Yes. So. You need to go into these things because you want to do them, not because you get. One of the things that bring disappointments to people is exactly going into with these kind of ideas, with these kind of things. They want to be cool and things like, if you come into the special with all the wrong reasons, you are going to get disappointed, because I'm in this specialty because I like it, because I can do it, because I'm capable, I'm able, and I've attained enough knowledge and skill to do things. Now, whether I'm cool or not, I think it's up to my patients when I sort them out. When I sort them out, and then they can say, "Oh, doctor, thank you very much. You've helped me." Or so.
Okay.
I never look at it like that.
Okay, and what about in terms of like the cons? Because I know it sounds super intense, the training, the the process? Because you said you have like 1,000 operations.
Yes.
What was the training like for you?
So yeah, I think this one definitely is different, and I think that's the only unfair bit of it, because neurosurgical training is a little bit different from other specialty training, for example, like general medicine or anything. And like I said, these people they also have their intensity. Some of them. I was talking to a junior doctor recently, and they were very, very short staff, and they're on the ward, they're looking at lots of patients. So they've got their own different sorts of intensities. We've got our own different sorts of intensities in neurosurgery, but neurosurgical training is very difficult, very intense. It requires you giving yourself 100%, and I sometimes I've had to stay away from my family for a long time. I'm on night shifts. I'm coming in to operate patients. It's yes, in that sense, it requires quite a little bit more from yourself than probably I would say in other specialties. But like I said, you have to go into these things, putting all this into account. In fact, I was speaking to one of the junior doctors recently, and then they asked me, if you're going to do this journey again, would you do it? I said, yes, I would do this journey again, but I would also consider GP practice. And then they laughed. They say, how can you consider neurosurgery and GP? And I said, because for me, I think a GP has a better quality of life, because they've got a 9 to 5. They can choose not to do nights and things like. I don't have that luxury. If a patient comes in at night, I have to come in and operate on them and give a few hours of operating. So it's different, but yes, and it's the training is a little bit challenging.
So you mentioned your family. How does your family take it? Do you have kids?
Yes, I've got two lovely daughters. They barely see me, but I think they've come to terms with it. I work quite a lot, and I've got a lovely wife who's very supportive. She's a pediatric neonatologist as well, so she's quite very supportive. Yeah.
So she understands. I think that's a really important point, that actually your wife is a doctor too. It would be very hard to explain to somebody else, I think, that you have to go. You can't maybe attend this thing. You have to go because people's lives are depending on you. Like if you're not there, people die. Like it's that serious.
I mean, I'll tell you that everybody understands this for the first 1-2 years, but they want you to be home to help out with things, to help out with kids, and it can't always be you. You have it's a family. You have to as much as you want to give much to yourself or to your specialty, you also have to create time for the children and time for the family as well to grow. You have to grow together.
Yeah. How old are your girls?
So I've got one who is 9 and one who is 5. Yeah, it's that age where they're very, very stubborn and they're very challenging people.
I can only imagine. My oldest is 5. I don't know if it gets any easier. I think it just changes in terms of what
it gets worse. Oh, that's not a good thing. It can't get worse than this. It can't get worse than this right now.
It sounds quite bad. It feels a bit tough sometimes having 3 kids under the age of 5 and under. But then when I look at teenagers, they also don't look easy.
They've got their own issues.
Yes, exactly. So it's difficult. So what about because you say that initially you were in Hull in the in England, and then you moved to Scotland. How would you compare the two countries, England and Scotland?
So there's a lot of differences. There's a lot of similarities as well. So NHS Scotland is quite different from NHS England. In fact, for anybody who is applying for a job in Scotland, you need to use the NHS Scotland website. It's different Scotland from the NHS England website. What's different about it is I found the NHS England to have first and foremost, it pays a little bit more here in Scotland. Probably that's the first difference. And the salaries get banded here because, of course, of the intensity and the lack of staff. So they kind of band them. NHS England follows more of the European regulations for workers, in that your rota is supposed to be compliant and things like that. Here they don't follow it very much, but they compensate that with the banding of your salary. So the salaries here kind of tend to be a little bit higher. There is still free university here in Scotland. So if anybody, these are one of the things you have to look at if you've got children. We have free education here in Scotland, even universities. And in England, it's not there. So these things are also, So
That's
these
a
are
big
things to
deal.
look at.
Yeah. And can someone come from England and do university in Scotland? Do you know
Oh
that?
yeah, oh yeah. But if you're coming from England to do university here, then because you have not been here for a minimum of 5 years, you'll have to pay for that university.
Ah, okay. So you have
So you have to be here as a minimum of 5 years at least in Scotland before you can qualify for free education.
Okay. And
so the other things are different. The rest of the things are the same. It's NHS, free health. It's, you know, the service, the quality of the service is the same. Absolutely nothing has changed in that sense. And to be fair, the bits and pieces are just a little bit different, but nothing very, very much that is capitally different, you know.
And also the pay for junior doctors as well is better in Scotland because, you know, junior doctors are across the whole of the UK, but the ones in Scotland have stopped because for them, their government has offered them a higher salary. Well, for us here, we are still striking. So that's something to consider, that it would be a good option to just start straight away in Scotland, because it sounds like they have better pay and then they have better salary. Sorry, they have better pay and then they have free university education. What about, my question would be about the cost of living. Is it higher so that it balances it out? Or
to be fair, I think it's a little bit higher because when I was in Hull, but Hull is one of the cheapest towns in England to live. So I don't want to consider that very, very much, because if somebody's living in the south of England, like cities like Brighton, cities like Southampton, these are very expensive. These are coastal cities. They're very expensive. The housing is very expensive. The rent is very expensive. Food probably as well. Food prices will be very high. So if you consider, for example, from London down south, it's very expensive.
Yeah.
Scotland is a little bit more. So I can only compare two places. I can compare Scotland to Hull, and Scotland is slightly more expensive than Hull. But like I said, Hull was one of the cheapest areas to live in England.
Okay.
So every time I went to Manchester or Leeds, I spent more. So in that sense, no, I think it's probably even the same. The only thing I'll tell you about Scotland is Edinburgh is very, very expensive. If you're going to go and live in Edinburgh, I think it's one of the most expensive cities in the UK. And housing there is really, really expensive. So yeah, Edinburgh. But if you're living outside of Edinburgh, if you're going to places like Glasgow, Aberdeen, you're moving to Elgin and the north of Scotland, yes, it's pretty much the same as England.
Okay. And if you're out there and you are Ugandan in Scotland, please let us know below. What's the Ugandan community in Scotland like? Have you seen other Ugandans, or is it just you?
So I haven't met Ugandans yet, but I haven't been looking, to be fair. And I'd say that I've been very busy. But recently, actually, somebody introduced me to a Ugandan nurse here. We haven't had a chance to catch up. She's working in our theaters. So I'm going to find time to catch up, and we can of course have a chat and see how she's getting on and things. But I haven't met a community yet. No.
Do you have matoke?
They are Ugandans, definitely.
Do you have matoke?
No. Unfortunately, that's very unfortunate here in Scotland. Matoke is in London.
Yeah, we have a lot of here in England. So
yeah, unfortunately, no, I haven't found it.
Oh dear.
I haven't found Matoke, unfortunately. No, I'll have to. If somebody is listening to this and they know somewhere I can buy Matoke in Scotland, please just let us know.
Comment below, yeah. And what about the other thing, the accents? Because I feel like Scottish accent, every time I hear it, like I'm like, what did you say? Like I can't understand it so easily. Was that
easy? So I think in regards to the accents, we've got some areas of Scotland, which is the Shetlands, the Islands. Their accents can be very challenging, but the rest of it I've not found. So yeah, when you come for the first 1, 2, 3 months, you may have to ask a little bit. Yes, what? But after that, you get used to it. Really, that's it. After about a few months, you're in it. So you're absolutely caught up. So I don't think it's such a big problem. But like I mentioned, the islands, you find people who are very, very difficult to understand. Okay. But they are 1%.
Yeah, and also I feel like now for you who knows Russian,
yeah,
what is this? This is nothing. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, people need to be, I think, open to languages, because if you stick yourself that no, you must either move to an English-speaking country only, or you must only go to people who have that accent as yours, you might as well just stay where you are. because otherwise you have to move out of comfort zone to grow or to develop yourself as a person. The last thing that I have to ask you is about, you mentioned that you want to do this specialty because you had hopes of maybe returning back to Uganda. What are your plans
Yes.
now? Do you have any hopes of doing what?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I want to now start recently, and I thought about that, is I want to begin getting in touch with the hospitals in Uganda, and to come and do some surgeries for people. And I'm happy to do that on basically a charity basis, where I can come and do spinal operations with people who really need it. But the thing is that the government or hospitals in Uganda have to provide the facilities. Where we can pick patients who are especially spinal patients, spinal decompression, spinal fixation, or tumors or brain tumors, that are people who are really struggling and they can't find all the funds to do this. And I'm happy to come and offer help to these people. So I'm happy to start. I was thinking of I wanted to speak to Moses, who is one of the
Uganda
the people who, yes, to find space, and by finding spaces, the facilities have to be there. The hospitals have to be there, able to accept patients who are poor on a free basis, that cannot afford healthy care, because we need to look out for each other. It's the most important thing, and we need to stop being very money minded and offer help to people. And I'm happy to do that. So I think I'll get in touch with the organizations, and I'll be coming down to Uganda to do this.
Thank you so much. I'm sure that's going to be so helpful. I really enjoyed this conversation. I don't know if you have any final comments or any words for anyone out there who's watching it for the first time and they're so inspired. I'm so inspired. If you're not inspired, I don't know what you're up to. Comment below. How inspired are you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think to the young people, people who want to do neurosurgery is now very fast changing. A lot of things we used to do in the past, now we do either endoscopically or image guidedly. So it's quite a changing specialty. There's a lot of technology that has come into things. It's an interesting, exciting thing to do. It's an exciting specialty to do. It requires quite some self determination, and you have to give yourself to the specialty for you to be able to achieve success into it. So it is a doable thing. I don't want anybody to tell you out there that you can't do these things, or you feel yourself you're very poor. I grew up very poor. I grew up, and one of the things that I actually very appreciative is that, my mom is very, very been instrumental, and my dad in inspiring us and telling us that these things are doable things, and nobody can tell you that you can't do something. You can't do whatever you want to do, so it's just you have to put your mind to it, and of course some support from the people around you. And I'm happy to offer help and advice, and anybody who needs it, really, I'm happy to do it.
So if you want to, I guess, get in touch, then comment below and I will connect you. And only serious people, please, no time wasters. As you can see, Kenneth doesn't have time. And talk and be like that. So yeah, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and see you in my next one. Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.